Your kids can eat when they get to the house, my mom said, tossing them a few napkins as if that counted as care. My sister's sons unwrapped their $67 pasta and cake boxes right there at the table. Her husband chuckled, "Next time feed them first." I just said, "Got it." Hi everyone, my name is Clara Wynn, I'm 32. And if silence had a taste, it would have been the one stuck in my throat that night. Have you ever realized your family doesn't see your children as family? The restaurant smelled of truffle oil and lemon butter. Plates clinked like laughter in disguise. My twins, Noah and Grace, sat quietly beside me, eyes glued to the tablecloth, pretending not to be hungry. I had promised them dessert. I didn't expect to be told they could eat later, like guests overstaying their welcome in their own bloodline. Mom leaned back, swirling her wine. Honestly, Claire, if you worked harder, maybe you could afford to treat your kids sometimes. It's not our job to keep them fed. My sister Olivia laughed, "Hi, brittle. Maybe next month, sis. When your freelance thing actually pays." That line hit harder than I'd admit. They never asked what it cost to rebuild life after a storm. They only cared that I didn't bring thunder. Noah whispered, "Mom, are we in trouble?" I smiled. "No, baby. Just learning how grown-ups act when they forget manners." The waiter returned, pen ready. "Will you be needing anything else, ma'am?" I looked at my kids, then at the empty side plate meant for bread. My mother rolled her eyes, assuming I'd stay quiet, like always. But something inside me clicked. The same sound as a lock turning. "Yes," I said calmly, standing up. The chair's scrape made the table pause. "We'll need the check for everyone's meal." "I'll handle it." Olivia's fork froze midair. "You pay for this." Mom snorted. "Don't embarrass yourself, Clara." I smiled faintly. No embarrassment left to spare. As I reached for my card, their laughter faded into uncertainty. The waiter's pen trembled slightly. Even he sensed the shift. Because what they didn't know, what none of them could imagine, was that I hadn't come here to eat. I had come here to end something. And when I signed that receipt, it wasn't a payment. It was the beginning of a collection. The silence after dinner was sharp enough to cut through steel. Mom's lipstick stain glowed on her wine glass as she whispered, "Show off." Olivia muttered something to her husband, who smirked at me the way people do when they think you've spent your last dime to save face. They didn't know I'd stopped living for their approval long ago. Outside the night was cold. My kids clung to my coat sleeves as I buckled them into the car. Their cheeks were flushed, not from laughter but from pretending hunger didn't exist. When I closed the door, I caught my reflection in the window. Tired eyes, calm face, a storm under glass. "Mom," Noah asked softly, "why didn't Grandma give us food?" I forced a smile. "Because sometimes people forget how kindness works. But that's okay, we'll remind them." We drove in silence until the city lights blurred into gold streaks. I stopped by the bakery 2 blocks from our apartment, the one I couldn't afford when things were bad. The owner, Mrs. Patel, smiled as I walked in. "Long time no see, Clara." "Yeah," I said, steadying my voice. "Need 2 slices of chocolate cake, please." Back home, the twins devoured them while I scrolled through my phone. Past due notices, text threads filled with pity from friends, and one unopened message from Mom. "You're ridiculous. Don't call us for help again." Help? I'd never received any. What they didn't know was that this week my freelance thing had become something bigger. Something registered, trademarked, and signed by a client they'd all recognize from their overpriced dinner conversations. The deposit alone could cover 3 months of what my parents once spent on Olivia's birthday brunches. But revenge wasn't going to be about money. Not this time. It would be about correction. I glanced at the clock. 11:47 p.m. Then I opened a document titled, "The Wynn Family Foundation Proposal." It had my name on it. Not theirs. And under the list of donors, the first name read Olivia Harper, marked pending verification. She had no idea her signature was already attached, courtesy of the loan she'd begged Mom to co-sign 2 months ago. By the time they realized who really held the rights to the family's so-called charity trust, it would be too late. My phone buzzed. "Olivia, are you awake? We need to talk." I smiled into the dark. Finally, I thought. It begins. Olivia's message blinked on the screen again. "Urgent. Call me now." I waited. I wanted her to feel the same pause she left me hanging in for years. When I finally answered, her voice was tight, trembling beneath fake calm. "Clara, You didn't happen to file something under my name, did you? The bank just called about a verification issue. I leaned back on the couch, the glow of the city slipping through the blinds. Why would I do that, Liv? You're the responsible one, remember? She exhaled shakily. Don't play stupid. Mom's furious. They said the family trust paperwork bounced back with your address listed as the business contact. Oh, I said quietly. Then it must have found its way home. The silence that followed was pure electricity. Clara, what are you doing? Cleaning up, I said. You've been spending donations from the foundation that was never officially registered. Guess who just registered it? Her gasp cracked like ice. You wouldn't. I already did. I hung up before she could spit another word. Across the room the twins were asleep, faces soft under the dull hum of the heater. I brushed Grace's hair aside and whispered, "We're okay now." The next morning my mother showed up unannounced, hair perfect, fury radiating through her perfume. "You think this little stunt makes you powerful?" she hissed. "You embarrassed your sister. You humiliated the family." I poured coffee slowly, the sound steady, unbothered. "No, Mom. I just corrected the credits." Her eyes narrowed. "You've always been jealous of her." I smiled. "No. I just finally learned her language. Contracts." She stared at me for a long time before muttering, "You'll regret this." "Maybe," I said, "but not tonight." After she left, I opened my laptop again. The foundation's legal transfer confirmation sat in my inbox. All legitimate. All mine. That afternoon Olivia's husband texted me, "We need to meet. This is serious." I replied, "Then bring Mom. Let's have dinner again." My treat. It was poetic, same table, same restaurant, same family. But this time the menu wasn't food. It was truth. And when they showed up I already had envelopes waiting for each of them. One for Mom, one for Olivia, one for her husband. Each sealed. Each marked. Final statement. They arrived just like before. Same smug rhythm, same expensive perfume masking guilt. Mom's heels clicked first, then Olivia's husband's fake laughter echoed across the restaurant like a practiced charm. Olivia trailed behind, her phone glued to her hand as if she could text her way out of this. I stood when they reached the table. "Good to see you all again," I said, sliding the 3 envelopes toward them. Mom gave a small, humorless smile. "You're really making this theatrical, Clara." Olivia snatched hers first, ripping it open, then froze. Her fingers trembled as she read the first page. This is a transfer confirmation," she whispered. "You can't." "I can," I said softly. "The Wynn Family Foundation is legally mine now. All donations, assets, and future credit lines are under my company's management." Her husband leaned forward. "You forged documents?" "No," I said calmly, sipping my water. "You did. Months ago when you asked Mom to sign off on those false expense reports. Use my tax ID. I just signed what you started." Mom's hand hit the table. "Do you have any idea what you've done?" "Restored balance," I replied. The waiter appeared with our drinks, eyes darting nervously. I smiled politely at him, the same way I used to smile when my family belittled me. Except this time the tremor was gone. Olivia's husband whispered something to her, but I caught every word. "She could ruin us." She whispered back, "She already has." I leaned in slightly. "Don't worry, I'm not after your money. Just your silence." Mom's eyes narrowed. "What do you want, Clara?" I looked at her for a long moment. An apology would have been nice. But I've stopped expecting things you can't afford. As I stood to leave, I glanced at the kids' corner by the window. A family laughing over shared dessert. "That's what real wealth looks like," I said quietly. And when I walked out I didn't look back. Because for the first time in my life, they were the ones who stayed seated, speechless. The next morning I woke to 30 missed calls and a storm of messages. "Mom, you've gone too far." "Olivia, we need to fix this before the donors find out." Her husband, "You'll regret making enemies in your own family." I didn't reply. The truth was they'd never been my family, not really. Just people I happened to share DNA and dinners with. By noon my phone buzzed again, this time from an unknown number. "Ms. Wynn," a woman's voice said. "I'm calling from Harlan and Associates. We represent the foundation's previous sponsors. We've received notice of new ownership. Can you confirm?" "Yes," I said simply. "All legal and filed." Under Clara Wynne Consulting. She paused. Impressive move, Ms. Wynne. We'd like to keep working with you. The last administration had issues. I smiled. That's one way to put it. After the call, I took the twins to the park. The sun filtered through the trees, soft and golden. For once, no one was judging my clothes or counting my worth. Grace ran up with a dandelion crown and placed it on my head. You're the queen now, she said, giggling. I whispered, maybe I finally am. When we got home, Olivia was waiting by my door. Her mascara had surrendered hours ago. Clara, please, she said. You've destroyed everything. The donors are backing out. Mom's furious. We could lose the house. I leaned against the doorframe, studying her. You mean your house, the one Dad bought in my name before you switched the title behind my back? Her lips parted. You knew. I always knew, I said. I just waited for the right day to make you remember it. She wiped her tears. You can't just erase us. I shook my head. No, Olivia. I'm not erasing you. I'm letting you see yourselves. The wind picked up, scattering the petals from Grace's crown across the porch. I watched one land in Olivia's hand, a pale, weightless thing that vanished as quickly as her pride. Enjoy your quiet, I said softly. You taught me how. Days passed. My phone barely buzzed anymore. The same people who once sent daily critiques now sat in their own quiet. Silence had finally switched sides. I spent my mornings at the cafe below my apartment, sketching out plans for the foundation's first real project. A scholarship fund for single mothers rebuilding from nothing. The irony didn't escape me. They called it the Wynne Renewal Grant. But that wasn't revenge. That was repair. Still, peace didn't come easily. Every so often I'd catch my reflection in the cafe window. Calm face, but eyes that still flinched at memories. Mom's voice, Olivia's laughter. Those dinner tables where kindness cost too much to serve. One evening an email came through from Mom. The subject line read, "You proved your point." Inside just one sentence, but was it worth breaking your family? I stared at the screen, heartbeat steady. Then I typed back. Family breaks itself when love is conditional. I never hit send. Some truths aren't meant for inboxes. The following week, local news ran a small piece. Former family trust under new management. Clara Wynne launches ethical education program. The article quoted me, though I didn't remember giving a statement. When people tell you to feed your children later, remember that some futures can't wait. I closed my laptop and smiled faintly. Someone at the cafe must have overheard my words last week. The story spread fast. Old acquaintances texted congratulations. Olivia blocked me. Mom called twice then stopped. But the strangest message came from an unknown number that night. You did the right thing. She needed to be humbled. No name. No trace. Just those words. I read them twice, feeling something shift inside me. Not victory, not regret, just clarity. For the first time in years, the silence in my apartment didn't feel empty. It felt earned. A week later, I was invited to speak at the city's Women's Leadership Forum, something Olivia would have killed to attend. The theme was redefining strength. Standing backstage, I felt that familiar flicker of nerves. But when I looked down at the small paper bracelet Noah had made, Mom equals brave scribbled in red marker, I exhaled steady. When it was my turn, I walked to the podium under soft lights. The crowd hushed. Cameras clicked. My name is Clara Wynne, I began, voice even. And strength isn't loud. It's quiet. It's the moment you decide to stop waiting for an apology you'll never get. The audience stayed still, really listening. I told them about starting the foundation, about raising kids while rebuilding self-respect, about surviving dinners that felt like judgment trials. But I didn't name names. I didn't need to. Afterward, a journalist caught me outside. Ms. Wynne, people online are saying you exposed your own family in your speech. Care to comment? I smiled. No family is exposed by truth, only by guilt. That night as I drove home, Olivia's contact lit up again. Against my better judgment, I answered. Clara, she said, voice breaking, Mom's not well. She keeps saying she wants to see you. Please. For a moment my heart clenched. I remembered birthdays, late-night lullabies, the brief flashes when Mom's love had been real. Where is she? I asked quietly. At home. She hasn't eaten. She just stares at your foundation website all day. Silence filled the line. The kind that carries years of unspoken things. I'll come tomorrow, I said finally. When I arrived the next evening, the house looked smaller than I remembered, like pride had shrunk it. Mom sat by the window, pale, holding an old photo of us. She looked up and whispered, "You finally did something right." But this time I didn't flinch. I sat beside her, calm and unshaken. "No, Mom," I said softly. "I finally did something for us." Her eyes filled, not with anger but something closer to understanding. We sat there for a long time, two women who had spent a lifetime mistaking silence for peace. The evening light poured in through the thin curtains, soft and golden, touching the photo frame between us. A younger version of me holding her hand, both of us smiling like time couldn't break anything. Mom exhaled slowly. "You embarrassed me, Clara," she said finally. I nodded. "You humiliated me for years, Mom. Maybe now we're even." She looked down, trembling slightly. "I just wanted your life to be better than mine." "It could have been," I said gently, "if you hadn't compared it to hers." Her gaze drifted toward the table where an envelope rested, the same kind I'd given Olivia. She picked it up with shaky fingers. "What's this?" "It's the deed," I said. "To Olivia's house." I signed it back to her. Her eyes widened. "Why?" "Because revenge ends where accountability begins," I replied quietly. "I didn't build that foundation to destroy. I built it so no woman would ever have to ask permission to feed her children." Mom's lip trembled, tears finding the cracks time left behind. "You're stronger than I ever was." I smiled faintly. "You made sure I had to be." We didn't hug, we weren't that kind of family, but something softer passed between us, something wordless and fragile like truce. When I left the house, Olivia stood at the gate. She didn't speak, just nodded. It was small, but it was something. Back home, I found Grace and Noah asleep on the couch, the TV light flickering over their faces. I covered them with a blanket and sat for a moment, letting the quiet settle. Outside, the city hummed, steady, alive, forgiving. On my desk lay the original dinner receipt from that night, still folded neatly. I picked it up and wrote across the back in ink. They said to feed them later. I chose forever. I slid it into the Family Foundation's first file. And just like that, the story that began with hunger ended with peace.